The year was 2547, and humanity had spread its wings far beyond the cradle of Earth. Stars that once twinkled in the night sky now held bustling colonies, thriving economies, and fragile alliances. Nova Terra, one of the most vibrant hub worlds in human space, buzzed with activity as diplomats, traders, and mercenaries mingled in its sprawling cities. Ships from dozens of species docked at orbital stations, unloading cargo and secrets alike. It was a time of uneasy peace, a balance maintained not by trust but by fear. Admiral Kira Voss stood on the observation deck of her flagship, the Eclipse Vanguard. She stared out at the swirling nebula visible through the reinforced glass, her mind heavy with thoughts of what lay ahead. Her dark hair was pulled back into a tight bun, and the lines on her face spoke of years spent carrying burdens too great for any one person. She was a soldier, a leader, and a protector of humanity's fragile foothold in the galaxy. But even she couldn't shake the feeling that something ominous loomed on the horizon. For months, rumors had been circulating about unsettling developments among humanity's rivals. The insectoid Gennari Collective, known for their hive mind efficiency and ruthless expansionism, had reportedly begun constructing massive warships unlike anything seen before. And then there were the Aetherians, mysterious beings cloaked in shimmering energy fields, who rarely interacted with other species, but whose power was undeniable. Whispers spoke of new weapons, so destructive they could shatter entire planets. But it wasn't just the aliens causing concern. There were troubling signs closer to home. Intelligence reports hinted at internal dissent within humanity's own ranks. Some factions argued for appeasement, claiming that humanity couldn't afford another galactic conflict after centuries of rebuilding from past wars. Others pushed for aggressive posturing, believing that showing weakness would only invite attack. The debates raged endlessly, sowing discord where unity was desperately needed. Kira turned away from the window as her comm device beeped softly. "Admiral," came the voice of Lieutenant Rhea Collin, her trusted second-in-command. "We've received an update from Command. Priority level Alpha." That tone sent a chill down Kira's spine. Alpha-level updates were reserved for matters of existential importance. She strode quickly to her desk and activated the holographic display. A series of encrypted files materialized in front of her, accompanied by a grainy image of a battered freighter drifting silently in deep space. The caption read, "Freighter ID, Solace 7, suspected smuggler." "What's this?" Kira asked, narrowing her eyes. Rhea stepped forward, holding a datapad. "It matches the description of a ship flagged for smuggling advanced weaponry components. According to our sources, it vanished near the border of Zanari-controlled territory 3 weeks ago. Now it's reappeared here, dead in the water." Kira frowned. Advanced weaponry meant railguns or worse. If the Zanari had somehow acquired technology capable of rivaling humanity's best defenses, the consequences could be catastrophic. "Send a recovery team," she ordered, "and prep a squad of Marines. I want them ready to board if necessary." "Yes, ma'am." Rhea saluted and hurried off to relay the orders. As preparations got underway, Kira couldn't shake the nagging sense of foreboding. Something about this situation felt wrong, not just because of the implications of railgun technology falling into enemy hands, but because of how conveniently timed the freighter's reappearance seemed. Was this a trap? Or had someone deliberately left the ship here as bait? Hours later, the recovery team returned with grim news. They'd boarded the Solace 7 and found no crew-only blood stains smeared across the corridors and evidence of a violent struggle. In the cargo hold, they discovered crates filled with strange metallic cylinders marked with unfamiliar symbols. One of the engineers identified them immediately. "Railgun components. This changes everything," Kira muttered under her breath as she examined the confiscated items. These weren't standard-issue railguns. They were prototypes, far smaller and more efficient than anything currently in use. Whoever had designed these had made a quantum leap in technology, and whoever controlled them held a significant advantage in any future conflict. But the real shock came when the team uncovered a data core hidden beneath the floor panels. When decrypted, it revealed classified schematics detailing not only the railguns, but also plans for integrating them into larger platforms. What caught Kira's attention, however, was a single name scrawled at the bottom of one document: Dr. Elias Kane. Elias Kane was a brilliant engineer who had worked for humanity's military-industrial complex before disappearing without a trace 5 years earlier. At the time, his absence had raised eyebrows, but nothing concrete ever surfaced to suggest foul play. Now, seeing his name linked to alien technology made Kira's blood run cold. Had he defected? Been coerced? Or was he simply a pawn in a much larger game? Before she could delve deeper into the mystery, another message arrived from Command. This one bore the seal of the High Council, demanding an immediate briefing on the recovered materials. Kira knew what that meant: politics. Already, factions within humanity's leadership were jockeying for control over the discovery. Some would see it as an opportunity to strengthen their position against the Zanari. Others might view it as justification for preemptive strikes or surrender. As she prepared to leave for the meeting, Kira paused to look out the observation window once more. Below her, Nova Terra glittered like a jewel against the blackness of space. Billions of lives depended on the decisions she and others would make in the coming days. For all its beauty and promise, the galaxy was still a dangerous place, a frontier where survival often came at a terrible cost. And yet, despite the uncertainty and the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders, Kira felt a flicker of determination ignite within her. Humanity had faced extinction-level threats before and emerged stronger each time. They had adapted, innovated, and endured. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she vowed to lead her people through them, not because she believed humanity was perfect, but because she believed in its potential. With renewed resolve, Admiral Kira Voss stepped onto the shuttle bound for Nova Terra's Central Command Center. Little did she know that the events set into motion by the discovery aboard the Solace 7 would reshape the course of galactic history and test the limits of humanity's resilience in ways no one could have anticipated. The mood aboard the Eclipse Vanguard was tense as Admiral Kira Voss reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The discovery of railgun components on the smuggler's freighter had sent shockwaves through humanity's military command, and now every decision felt like walking a tightrope over an abyss. Nova Terra's Central Command Center buzzed with activity as analysts worked tirelessly to decode the data core retrieved from the Solace 7. Every hour brought new revelations and more questions. Kira sat in her quarters, staring at a holographic projection of the recovered schematics. The designs were intricate, far beyond anything currently in use by human fleets. These railguns weren't just weapons. They were precision instruments capable of tearing apart starships or even small moons with pinpoint accuracy. What troubled her most was the realization that this technology could easily tip the balance of power in the galaxy. If the Zanari already possessed such weapons, humanity's days might be numbered. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. "Enter," she said sharply. Lieutenant Rhea Collins stepped inside, carrying a datapad. Her expression was grim. "Admiral, we've identified additional anomalies in the data core," she began. "It appears some of the files were tampered with before encryption. Someone wanted us to find only part of the truth." Kira raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Rhea hesitated, then handed over the datapad. "We ran a deeper analysis. Hidden beneath the surface-level data are fragments of communications logs. They mention Collaborators. Collaborators? Kira's voice hardened. Human collaborators? Ria nodded. It looks that way. Some of the messages reference individuals within our own government and corporate sectors. Names we recognize. People who should have been loyal to humanity. Kira clenched her fists. Betrayal. The word echoed in her mind like a death knell. It was one thing to face external threats. It was another entirely to discover enemies lurking within your own ranks. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to stay calm. Do we know who they're working with? Not yet, Ria admitted. But there are hints pointing toward both the Xenari and possibly the Aetherians. Whoever these traitors are, they're playing a dangerous game. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Kira's mind raced. If traitors had helped smuggle advanced railgun technology to the Xenari, it meant humanity wasn't just fighting an alien enemy. They were also battling sabotage from within. Trust, already fragile, would soon become non-existent. How could she lead when paranoia threatened to consume everyone around her? Before she could dwell further on the implications, another message arrived. This time, it came directly from Eartha Summons to attend an emergency session of the High Council. Kira knew what awaited her there. Accusations, finger-pointing, and political maneuvering. Still, she couldn't ignore the call. Not when the fate of billions rested on the decisions made in those chambers. When Kira arrived at the council chamber, the atmosphere was electric with tension. Representatives from across human space filled the circular room, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of holo displays. At the center of the table floated a three-dimensional map of known space, dotted with icons representing colonies, military outposts, and contested territories. The sight reminded Kira of how vast and vulnerable their domain truly was. Chancellor Elias Grant, a tall man with silver hair and piercing blue eyes, stood at the head of the table. His voice boomed as he addressed the assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, we gather here today under dire circumstances. Intelligence has confirmed that the Xenari possess railgun technology superior to our own. Furthermore, evidence suggests collusion between certain factions within humanity and our adversaries. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some representatives exchanged uneasy glances, while others leaned forward, eager to hear more. Kira remained silent, her gaze fixed on the Chancellor. Grant continued, his tone grave. This betrayal cannot go unpunished. We must act swiftly to root out traitors and secure our borders. Admiral Voss, I understand you've been leading the investigation into this matter. What can you tell us? All eyes turned to Kira. She stepped forward, aware of the weight of their stares. Chancellor, the situation is worse than we initially feared. The railgun components discovered on the smuggler's freighter represent only a fraction of the threat. Our analysis indicates that similar shipments may have reached other destinations, potentially arming not just the Xenari, but also unknown third parties. Murmurs erupted again, louder this time. One representative, Senator Mara Huxley, rose to her feet. Her sharp features twisted into a scowl. Are you suggesting that humanity's own citizens are aiding our enemies? That's preposterous. It's not a suggestion, Senator, Kira replied evenly. It's a fact. Communications logs recovered from the data core implicate several high-ranking officials and corporate executives. Their motives remain unclear, but their actions leave no room for doubt. Huxley opened her mouth to argue, but Grant silenced her with a raised hand. Enough. Whether we like it or not, Admiral Voss speaks the truth. Now is not the time for denial or division. We must unite against this threat or risk annihilation. Kira appreciated the Chancellor's support, though she knew it wouldn't last long. Political alliances were fickle, and many in the room likely already plotted ways to exploit the crisis for personal gain. Still, she pressed on. I recommend immediate action on two fronts. First, we need to launch covert operations to intercept any remaining shipments of Railgun technology. Second, we must identify and neutralize the traitors within our ranks. The council erupted into debate, voices rising in discordant chaos. Some argued for preemptive strikes against the Jinari, while others advocated caution, warning that aggression could provoke a full-scale war. Through it all, Kira kept her focus, knowing that half measures would doom them all. Back aboard the Eclipse Vanguard, Kira convened a meeting with her senior staff. Lieutenant Rhea Collin, Captain Marcus Hawley, and Chief Engineer Elena Torres gathered in the war room, their expressions reflecting the gravity of the mission ahead. "All right," Kira began, pacing back and forth. "We have two objectives: stop the flow of Railgun tech and expose the traitors. Neither will be easy, but failure isn't an option." Marcus Hawley, a grizzled veteran with scars etched into his weathered face, spoke up first. "What about resources? We're stretched thin as it is. Diverting ships for covert ops will weaken our defenses." "I'm aware of that," Kira said. "But if we don't act now, we'll lose the initiative. Besides, we can't defend ourselves if we don't know who to trust." Elena Torres chimed in, adjusting her glasses. "And what about the railguns themselves? Even if we intercept shipments, we still don't know how to counter them. Without proper shielding or countermeasures, our fleet won't stand a chance." Kira nodded. "That's why we'll prioritize reverse engineering the components we recovered. Elena, I want your team working around the clock on this. Find weaknesses we can exploit." As the discussion continued, Kira couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something crucial. The pieces didn't quite fit together. Why had the smugglers left the Solace 7 drifting in open space? Why hadn't the traitors covered their tracks better? Something about this entire operation felt orchestrated, not random. Later that night, unable to sleep, Kira returned to her quarters and reopened the decrypted files. As she sifted through the data, one detail caught her eye: a timestamp embedded in the communications logs. It corresponded to a date weeks before the Solace 7 disappeared. Someone had planted the information deliberately, ensuring it would be found. Realization dawned on her. This wasn't just smuggling gone wrong. It was a setup. The traitors weren't merely aiding the Zenari. They were trying to frame humanity for escalating tensions. By leaking evidence of collaboration, they hoped to turn public opinion against Kira and her allies, weakening humanity's resolve from within. Kira's jaw tightened. Whoever was behind this was cunning and ruthless, but they had underestimated her determination. Humanity might be fractured, betrayed, and outnumbered, but it still had one advantage: its ability to adapt and fight back. No matter the cost, Kira vowed to uncover the truth and protect her people. Tomorrow, the hunt would begin. The days that followed were a blur of activity aboard the Eclipse Vanguard. Admiral Kira Voss worked tirelessly, coordinating covert operations and rallying her crew for the battles ahead. The weight of leadership pressed down on her shoulders, but she refused to let it break her. Humanity's survival depended on her decisions, and she intended to make every one count. The first mission was straightforward, yet perilous. Intercept a convoy suspected of carrying railgun components to a Zenari outpost near the edge of human space. Intelligence suggested the convoy consisted of 3 heavily armed freighters escorted by 2 destroyers. It was a risky target, but Kira knew they couldn't afford to let those shipments reach their destination. If the Zenari managed to assemble more railgun platforms, humanity's chances of defending its colonies would dwindle to almost nothing. As the fleet approached the designated coordinates, tension filled the air. Captain Marcus Hawley stood beside Kira on the bridge, his eyes scanning the tactical display. "Admiral, we're within range," he reported. "Enemy ships are holding position around the convoy." Kira nodded. "Deploy the strike team. We'll hit them hard and fast before they can call for reinforcements." The operation began with precision. Stealth fighters launched from the Eclipse Vanguard, their engines muted to avoid detection. They swooped in silently, disabling the freighter's engines and cutting off their escape routes. Meanwhile, the destroyers turned their attention to the incoming attackers, unleashing volleys of plasma torpedoes. For a moment, it seemed like the mission might succeed without significant losses. But then everything changed. One of the destroyers unleashed a weapon unlike anything Kira had ever seen. A railgun blast so powerful it tore through an entire squadron of stealth fighters in seconds. The remaining pilots scrambled to evade, their communications crackling with panic. What was that? Kira demanded, her voice sharp. "Unknown, Admiral," came the reply from the sensors officer. "It appears to be some kind of experimental railgun system, much more advanced than what we recovered from the smuggler's freighter." Kira clenched her fists. So, the Zenari weren't just stockpiling railguns, they were actively field-testing new models. This wasn't just a skirmish. It was a glimpse into the future of warfare. And if humanity didn't adapt quickly, that future would belong to the Zenari. Despite the unexpected firepower, Kira refused to retreat. She ordered the Eclipse Vanguard to move closer, drawing fire away from the smaller ships. The flagship's shields flared as enemy projectiles slammed into them, each impact shaking the vessel like a storm at sea. Inside, alarms blared, and crew members scrambled to repair damage while maintaining evasive maneuvers. "Shields down to 40%, shouted the engineering officer. "We can't hold much longer," added another. But Kira remained calm, her mind racing through options. "Target their engines," she commanded. "If we disable their mobility, we can still win this." The order was carried out with grim efficiency. The Eclipse Vanguard unleashed a barrage of missiles, targeting the destroyer's propulsion systems. One by one, the enemy ships slowed, their railguns rendered useless without the ability to track their prey. With the escorts neutralized, the freighters became sitting ducks. Marines boarded the vessels, securing the cargo and ensuring no evidence of the railgun components fell into Zenari hands. When the dust settled, the cost of victory became clear. 3 stealth fighters had been lost, along with their crews. The Eclipse Vanguard itself bore scars from the battle, its hull scorched and pitted. Yet despite the losses, morale among the surviving crew remained high. They had faced a superior foe and emerged victorious, not through brute strength, but through strategy and determination. Back on Nova Terra, news of the successful interception spread quickly. The High Council praised Kira's leadership, though privately, many questioned whether such victories could continue indefinitely. Resources were dwindling, and the strain of constant vigilance was taking its toll on both military personnel and civilians alike. In the aftermath of the battle, Kira received a message marked urgent. It came not from Earth or any human colony, but from deep within the archives of humanity's oldest records. Intrigued, she accessed the file and found herself staring at blueprints for something called Project Leviathan. Decades ago, during humanity's early days of interstellar expansion, scientists and engineers had dreamed up designs for colossal warships equipped with railguns capable of obliterating entire fleets in a single volley. Dubbed Leviathan-class vessels, these behemoths represented the pinnacle of human ingenuity, but also the limits of practicality. Funding for the project had been cut due to political squabbles and fears of escalating arms races. Now, however, those same fears felt insignificant compared to the threat posed by the Zenari. Kira wasted no time. She called together his senior staff and presented the idea. "We need a game changer," she said firmly. "Something that will give us an edge against the Zenari. I believe Project Leviathan is our answer." Lieutenant Rhea Collin frowned. "Building a ship like that will take months, if not years. Do we have that kind of time?" "We don't have a choice," Kira replied. Every day we delay puts us further behind. Besides, these designs are already partially completed. All we need is the resources and manpower to finish the job." Chief Engineer Elena Torres leaned forward, studying the schematics. "It's ambitious," she admitted, "but doable. If we prioritize construction and streamline production, we might be able to complete the first Leviathan within 6 months." 6 months. It sounded like an eternity, but Kira knew it was their best shot. She authorized the immediate revival of Project Leviathan, designating a secret asteroid base as the construction site. From there, teams of engineers, technicians, and laborers worked around the clock, assembling the massive vessel piece by piece. As the weeks passed, progress was slow but steady. The ship took shape under layers of secrecy, shielded from prying eyes by automated defense systems and cloaking technology. Crew members assigned to the project spoke in hushed tones, aware of the monumental task before them. Some doubted the ship would ever see action, while others believed it was humanity's last hope. Amidst the chaos, Kira struggled to maintain unity among her forces. Rumors of sabotage persisted, fueling paranoia and distrust. Several key officers were reassigned after failing loyalty tests, replaced by individuals handpicked for their unwavering dedication. Even so, Kira couldn't shake the feeling that enemies lurked in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. Then came the Aetherians. For centuries, the enigmatic beings had observed humanity from afar, rarely interfering in galactic affairs. Their sudden appearance shocked everyone. A lone Aetherian emissary arrived at Nova Terra, requesting an audience with Admiral Voss. When Kira met the entity, she found herself face to face with a shimmering figure composed entirely of energy. Its voice resonated in her mind rather than her ears. "You tread dangerous paths, human," it said. "Your actions destabilize the balance of power. Cease your aggression or face annihilation." Kira stared at the being, her heart pounding. "We're not the aggressors here," she countered. "The Zanari are amassing weapons capable of destroying entire planets. If anyone threatens the galaxy, it's them." The Aetherian tilted its head, as if considering her words. "Balance must be maintained," it repeated cryptically. "Choose wisely." With that, the emissary vanished, leaving Kira shaken but resolute. Whatever the Aetherians' motives, one thing was clear. Humanity couldn't rely on outsiders to protect it. They would have to forge their own destiny, even if it meant defying ancient guardians. Construction on the Leviathan continued, undeterred by the warning. Kira named the ship Invincible Dawn, a symbol of hope in dark times. As the final pieces fell into place, she prepared her fleet for what lay ahead. The Zanari wouldn't wait forever, and neither would the Aetherians. Humanity's trial by fire had only just begun. The day finally came when the Invincible Dawn emerged from its hidden construction site, a towering colossus of metal and energy that dwarfed every other ship in humanity's fleet. Its sleek hull gleamed under the light of a nearby star, bristling, with railguns, missile launchers, and shield generators powerful enough to withstand even the most devastating attacks. At its core lay the crown jewel of Project Leviathan, a massive railgun, capable of firing projectiles at fractions of light speed, each shot carrying the destructive force of a small asteroid. Admiral Kira Voss stood on the bridge of the Invincible Dawn, her heart swelling with pride and trepidation. This was humanity's greatest gamble, a weapon designed not just to defend, but to strike fear into their enemies. Yet, as she gazed out at the assembled crew, she couldn't ignore the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. So many lives depended on this mission succeeding. Failure would mean not only the loss of the ship, but also the collapse of humanity's fragile resistance against the Zanari. The target was clear: a heavily fortified Zanari stronghold located near the border of human space. Intelligence reports indicated that the facility housed one of their largest railgun dreadnoughts, a monstrous vessel rumored to be capable of annihilating entire fleets with a single volley. Destroying it would deal a crippling blow to the Zenari war effort and send a message to both allies and adversaries alike. As the fleet approached the stronghold, tension crackled through the air like static electricity. The battle plan was simple yet daring. Smaller ships would engage the outer defenses, drawing fire away from the invincible Dawn. Once a path was cleared, the Leviathan would move in, using its superior firepower to dismantle the enemy's defenses and destroy the Railgun dreadnought. It was a high-risk strategy, relying on speed, coordination, and sheer audacity. "Admiral, we're within range," announced Lieutenant Rhea Khan, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "Enemy forces are mobilizing." Kira nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Dozens of red icons blinked ominously, representing Zenari fighters, cruisers, and orbital platforms. "Signal all squadrons to commence Phase 1, she ordered. "Let's give them something to think about." The first wave of attack began, with precision strikes from stealth bombers targeting key defensive structures around the stronghold. Explosions lit up the void as turrets were disabled and shielding arrays collapsed. The Zenari responded swiftly, launching swarms of insectoid drones armed with razor-sharp claws and plasma weapons. Human pilots fought valiantly, weaving through the chaos while trading blows with their relentless foes. Meanwhile, the invincible Dawn hung back, waiting for its moment to strike. Kira watched as smaller ships took heavy losses, their sacrifices buying precious time for the larger vessel to maneuver into position. Every casualty weighed heavily on her conscience, but she reminded herself why they were here to tip the scales in humanity's favor once and for all. Finally, the order came. "All units fall back," Kira commanded. "Leviathan is moving in." With a deafening roar, the invincible Dawn surged forward, its engines blazing trails of blue fire across the battlefield. Zenari ships turned their attention to the newcomer, unleashing torrents of railgun blasts and energy beams. The Leviathan's shields absorbed the punishment, flaring brightly as they held firm against the onslaught. Inside the ship, alarms blared and crew members scrambled to maintain stability. But Kira remained focused, her mind calculating angles and trajectories. "Target their main dreadnought," she instructed. "Fire at will." The command sent a shiver down everyone's spines. For months, they had dreamed of this moment, the chance to unleash the full might of humanity's greatest creation. With a deep hum, the Leviathan's primary railgun charged, energy crackling along its length. Then, with a thunderous boom, it fired. The projectile streaked across space faster than the eye could follow, slamming into the Zenari dreadnought with cataclysmic force. The impact tore through the enemy ship's armor, igniting internal explosions that consumed the vessel in seconds. Debris scattered in all directions, leaving behind a gaping hole where the dreadnought had once loomed. Cheers erupted throughout. The invincible Dawn, but Kira silenced them with a raised hand. "Don't celebrate yet," she warned. "We're not done." Indeed, the battle was far from over. Without their flagship, the remaining Zenari forces regrouped, launching desperate counterattacks in an attempt to overwhelm the Leviathan. Wave after wave of ships hurled themselves at the behemoth, determined to bring it down no matter the cost. Shields faltered under the relentless assault, and damage reports flooded the bridge. "Shields at 30%, shouted the engineering officer. "We can't hold much longer," added another. Kira clenched her jaw, her mind racing for solutions. "Divert auxiliary power to the shields," she ordered, "and prepare the secondary railguns. We'll finish this the hard way." One by one, the Leviathan's smaller railguns came online, spraying death across the battlefield. Each shot pulverized enemy ships, turning the tide in humanity's favor. Slowly but surely, the Zanari resistance crumbled, their forces reduced to ashes drifting through the void. When the dust settled, silence fell over the fleet. The stronghold was in ruins, its defenses obliterated, and the dreadnought nothing more than a memory. Humanity had won, but at a terrible price. Casualty lists scrolled across hollow displays, bearing the names of brave men and women who had given everything for the cause. Kira felt a pang of sorrow mixed with pride. These were the heroes who had paved the way for survival. Yet victory brought no rest. Reconnaissance teams sent to survey the wreckage uncovered chilling evidence. Schematics detailing plans for even larger railgun platforms, already in production elsewhere. Worse still, encrypted messages hinted at collaboration between the Zanari and unknown third parties, possibly the Aetherians themselves. Back aboard the Invincible Dawn, Kira convened a meeting with her senior staff. Exhaustion lined their faces, but determination burned in their eyes. "This isn't over," she said firmly. "The Zanari are building more weapons, and the Aetherians are watching us closely. If we don't act now, they'll crush us. What do you propose?" asked Captain Marcus Hawley, his voice hoarse from shouting orders during the battle. Kira paused, weighing her words carefully. "We strike at the heart of the Zanari Empire. Not just their military installations, but their homeworld itself. It's risky, but if we can cripple their ability to wage war, we might stand a chance." The room fell silent as the enormity of the plan sank in. Attacking the Zanari homeworld meant crossing into uncharted territory, facing overwhelming odds, and potentially provoking the wrath of the Aetherians. But there was no alternative. Humanity couldn't afford to wait for the next assault. It had to take the fight directly to the enemy. Preparations began immediately. Supplies were stockpiled, repairs were made, and new strategies were devised. Word spread among the fleet, igniting a mix of hope and fear. Some believed this bold move would secure humanity's future. Others saw it as a suicide mission. Regardless of personal opinions, however, everyone understood what was at stake. On the eve of departure, Kira stood alone on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Her thoughts drifted to the countless lives depending on her leadership, the sacrifices already made, and the battles yet to come. She knew the road ahead would be brutal, filled with uncertainty and danger. But deep down, she felt a spark of defiance ignite within her. Humanity had faced extinction before and emerged stronger each time. They had adapted, innovated, and endured. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she vowed to lead her people through them, not because she believed humanity was perfect, but because she believed in its potential. Tomorrow, they would set course for the Zanari homeworld, ready to challenge fate itself. And though the outcome remained uncertain, one truth was undeniable. Humanity's spirit burned brighter than ever, fueled by courage, resilience, and an unyielding determination to survive. The journey to the Zanari homeworld was long and fraught with danger. Admiral Kira Voss stood on the bridge of the Invincible Dawn, her gaze fixed on the swirling nebula ahead. It marked the edge of known space, a boundary humanity had rarely crossed. Beyond it lay uncharted territory and the heart of the Zanari Empire. The fleet traveled in silence, each crew member aware of the monumental task before them. This wasn't just another battle. It was an invasion into enemy territory, a desperate gamble to end the war once and for all. As they approached the nebula, sensors detected faint energy signatures emanating from within. Lieutenant Rhea Collin frowned at her console. "Admiral, there's something strange about those readings. They don't match any known Zanari technology." Kira stepped closer, studying the holographic display. "Could it be traps? Mines or automated defenses?" "It's possible," Rhea replied hesitantly. "But these patterns, they're too organized. Almost like Like someone's expecting us. Captain Marcus Hawley finished grimly. Kira nodded. The Zanari knew they were coming. Whether through spies' intercepted communications or sheer prediction, their arrival hadn't gone unnoticed. Still, turning back wasn't an option. Humanity couldn't afford retreat, not when so much depended on this mission succeeding. Adjust course, Kira ordered. We'll enter the nebula along the western flank. Keep shields up and stay alert. The fleet slipped into the glowing haze, engines humming softly as they navigated the treacherous expanse. Visibility dropped sharply, forcing reliance on sensors and intuition. For hours, nothing happened. Then, without warning, the ship rocked violently as an invisible force struck its shields. What was that? Kira demanded. Energy spikes, shouted the sensor officer. They're coming from all directions. Before anyone could react, the nebula lit up with blinding flashes of light. Ships materialized around them, Zanari vessels armed to the teeth, their insectoid designs glinting menacingly in the dim glow. But among them floated something else entirely, sleek, shimmering craft unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. The Aetherians? Kira whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. The mysterious beings who had once warned humanity against aggression now revealed themselves as active participants in the conflict. Their ships moved with fluid grace, weaving between Zanari and human forces alike. Energy beams lashed out, disabling weapon systems and crippling engines. It was clear they weren't here to aid or side. They were here to enforce their will. Signal the fleet to regroup, Kira commanded. Focus fire on the Aetherian ships. If we can break through, we might still reach the homeworld. Her order sparked chaos. Human pilots dove toward the shimmering vessels, unleashing salvos of missiles and railgun blasts. The Aetherians countered effortlessly, their shields absorbing everything thrown at them. Worse still, their attacks seemed calculated, not aimed to destroy, but to incapacitate. Within minutes, half the fleet found itself immobilized, drifting helplessly in the void. Kira clenched her fists, frustration boiling inside her. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Humanity had come so far, endured so much, only to be stopped by beings who claimed to act as guardians of the galaxy. She refused to accept defeat. Turning to her communications officer, she said, "Open a channel. I want to speak directly to the Aetherians." A moment later, a holographic figure appeared on the bridge, a tall, radiant being composed entirely of shifting energy. Its voice resonated in their minds, calm yet commanding. "You have trespassed beyond your limits, humans. Your actions threaten the balance of existence. Cease your aggression or face eradication." Kira straightened, meeting the entity's gaze without flinching. "We didn't start this war," she said firmly. "The Zanari attacked us first. We're fighting to protect our people to survive. The survival of one species cannot justify the destruction of countless others," the Aetherian replied. "Your railguns, your Leviathan-class vessel, these are tools of annihilation. Tools that destabilize the cosmos." Kira took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "I understand your concerns. But tell me this. Would you stand by while the Zanari enslaved entire civilizations? Would you allow them to build weapons capable of wiping out planets? Or do you believe peace comes from submission, letting stronger powers dictate terms?" The Aetherian tilted its head, as if considering her argument. "Strength does not define worthiness," it said finally. "Nor does suffering grant justification for violence." "No," Kira agreed. "But neither does fear. You claim to guard the galaxy, yet you let the Zanari grow unchecked. You watch as innocents die, as worlds burn. Is that truly balance, or is it indifference?" For a moment, silence filled the room. Then the Aetherian spoke again, its tone softer. "Perhaps we have erred. Perhaps our methods are flawed. But know this, should you continue down this path, you risk awakening forces beyond comprehension. Forces even we cannot control. With that, the hologram vanished, leaving Kira and her crew staring at empty space. Moments later, the Etherian ships withdrew, vanishing into the nebula as quickly as they had appeared. Free from interference, the fleet pushed onward, reaching the outskirts of the Zenari homeworld. What awaited them was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, a sprawling hive city covering the planet's surface, bristling with turrets, orbital platforms, and colossal dreadnoughts. It was a fortress unlike anything humanity had faced before. "This is it," Kira said quietly, addressing her crew. "No turning back now. Remember why we're here. For every life lost, for every world threatened. Today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for everyone who believes in freedom." The assault began with a barrage of railgun blasts from the invincible dawn, carving paths through the Zenari defenses. Smaller ships followed, pouring through the gaps to engage ground targets. Explosions erupted across the horizon as towers collapsed and shield generators failed. Yet despite the initial success, resistance remained fierce. Swarms of drones descended upon the fleet, overwhelming even the most skilled pilots. Inside the invincible dawn, alarms blared as damage reports flooded the bridge. Shields flickered dangerously low, and sections of the hull were breached. Still, Kira pressed forward, refusing to yield. "Target their central command hub," she ordered. "If we can take out their leadership, the rest will fall." The Leviathan unleashed its full arsenal, obliterating layers of defense until the command hub lay exposed. With a final deafening roar, the primary railgun fired, reducing the structure to rubble. Across the battlefield, Zenari forces faltered. Their coordination shattered. Victory came at a steep cost. Dozens of ships were lost, including several key vessels in the fleet. The invincible dawn itself bore scars that would never fully heal. Yet as the dust settled, Kira felt a sense of quiet triumph. Against all odds, humanity had struck a decisive blow. The Zenari Empire, weakened and leaderless, would no longer pose an immediate threat. In the aftermath, the Etherians reappeared, their presence radiating authority. Once again, Kira stood face to face with their emissary. "You have proven yourselves resilient," the being said. "Yet your actions carry consequences. Beware the path you tread, for the galaxy watches and remembers." Kira nodded solemnly. "We'll bear the responsibility. But know this, humanity won't bow to fear. We'll forge our own destiny, even if it means challenging gods." The Etherian regarded her for a long moment before disappearing once more, leaving humanity to pick up the pieces. Back aboard the invincible dawn, Kira gazed out at the stars, weary but hopeful. The war may have ended, but new challenges undoubtedly awaited. For now, though, humanity stood united, battered but unbowed. They had faced extinction and emerged stronger, ready to carve out their place among the stars. And as Kira turned away from the window, she allowed herself a small smile. Whatever the future held, one thing was certain: humanity's story was far from over.